Just to let you know, we are recording this so we can put it on a YouTube channel. So if you missed something or you wanted to revisit this PowerPoint presentation, and you can do so. I'll send you a workshop recap email, and we'll be able to get over that. So anyway, I'd like to introduce Tanya from Cloud Business Services. She's here to present her expertise on financial success, and we look forward to this hour. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to all of you guys for attending, and the Small Business Center for arranging this. All right. So strategies for financial success is our topic today. So here's a little bit about me. I am Tanya Hilts. I am a certified professional bookkeeper, an accredited impactful advisor, and a level 5 certified advisor. And my official title is Cloud Accounting Technology Specialist. All that means is we work in the cloud. And I'm here because I'm passionate about small business and financial education. And this did not, you can follow us on any of those at One Cloud Biz. It was supposed to come up there, but we'll just have to go with it. So anyway, a little bit about me. We've got some of my accolades in descending order. So for 2018 through to 2020, I was recognized as being an Insightful Accountant Top 100 Pro Advisor. For 2020, Insightful Accountants Top Canadian Pro Advisor. 2019, the CPB Canada Professional of the Year. 2018 and 2019, Top 50 Women in Accounting Globally. 2018, the Intuit Global Firm of the Future. 2018, Inspire Bookkeeper Award from Intuit Canada. 2017 and 2018, Top 50 Accounting Firm. 2017 was Top 21 Influencer in the Canadian bookkeeping world. I am a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, which means that I do training for the accountants in North America for Intuit or QuickBooks. I am a committee and task force volunteer for CPB Canada and founder of Cloud Business Services. That is an awful lot. I'm sorry, but I've been with a business coach who says I need to make sure to say all of that and be proud of all of that. I think as women, any of you will understand, we're not good at talking about ourselves, but I've been told I have to try. So thank you for your patience through all of that.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I get bored and I create stuff and do stuff. So, and I never sleep.
And are you going to take questions in and out, or is this an engaging workshop?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. I would like this to be engaging. So if you've got questions, just, throw your hand up and Google there, throw it in chat, or find an appropriate time to be able to jump in. I do talk a lot, so just feel free to jump in at that. If you would like to wait till the end, go ahead. I want this to be engaging and informative and not have you fall asleep through it. So feel free to jump in. So while we just wait for the last couple of people to come in, we thought we would do something a little bit fun. So at that link there, so I'll put this in the chat as well too, copy and paste it into the chat. There is a, oops. Let's do this again. Here is a personality test. It takes 90 seconds. You can go in and do it, and then you will receive a $99 value personality report for free just for attending. And yeah, don't overthink it. So I'll just go ahead and in the chat, I'll put that in right now. Apparently I can't type today. Go.com or my CBS.
Did you create that personality test?
No, this is actually through it's called a bank code personality test, and it's really, really interesting. There's 4 different personalities. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. And Luke, you can feel free to do it yourself at any time as well too.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting on that, and it's yeah, it just gives different insight. I really like it as well too, because it is engaging. So if you guys even want, I'll throw this offer out as well to everybody. Once you know your personalities and it gives you your 2 main personalities, the report you get is based on your top 2 personalities. If you go back in again and do it and throw the opposite, you will get another report, which will give you all 4 personalities, which actually will help when you're marketing and dealing with your clients and customers. It'll help you kind of understand how to recognize some of them and how to speak to some of them, maybe a little bit quicker and easier. So absolutely, please feel free to go ahead and do that. Yes, so our gift to you. So
Thank you.
yes, well, you're very welcome. And you can feel free to do that yourself as
I
well.
will.
It's very interesting.
I forgot to introduce Luke Fournier. He's our business consultant here at Small Business Center. He's also joined us. And Leanne Ballard is also with Cloud Business Services. All right, let's carry on.
Perfect.
Thank
Okay, well, thank you. All right, so let's jump in. You guys can grab that code and do that code later. If you did not get to it, no problems. So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I'm sure lots of you have heard that before from Albert Einstein. But oh no, Albert Einstein never said that. That is one of his most famous quotes. And I have been quoting that for years before I found out he actually didn't say it. It's unknown who said it. But this is just an example of how you can hear things and assume they're right. And we're going to be touching on that today as well, because that's important in financial success, is to make sure that you're dealing with accurate information. So we're going to start financial distress. COVID. We all have felt that. You know, then you add into it the economic recession that we're going through now, and that equals unhappy piggy banks. So what do we do? Is there a way around this? The business cycle that we have, or, you know, somebody's closed their business, they might think of another idea, or somebody else thinks of another business idea, and then they open another business. But unfortunately, this can be a cycle and is not good for the business owner. We want the business owner to be able to stay afloat. The insanity is doing the same old thing with the same old thinking, with the same old results. So you need to do things differently. How do we break the cycle? Education. Huge about education. And it's financial education. You guys know how to run your businesses, but there's part that you don't know because you didn't go to school to be, you know, an accountant or a bookkeeper. And that's not what your forte is. Otherwise, that's what your business would be. So learning, change is really important. And change is probably one of the hardest things because it's hard to break those habits. But if you can do that, you can break those chains, break the cycle, and you can be free. So some of the problems. Global pandemic, we've already talked about that. The economic recession. You then are forced to make rush decisions because you don't know how to react to things. Or possibly uneducated decisions because maybe you don't have the proper current up-to-date financial information. Or you just do it that way because it's always been done that way, and that can be a big problem. Or incorrectly priced services or products. Maybe you didn't raise prices over COVID because you were thinking of your clients, oh, my clients can't afford this. It impacts you negatively. We did that as well too. So I am right there in the same boat with you. And I am now looking at things going, oh my gosh, all of my prices went up. My wages for my team went up. Everything went up. And like everybody else out there, I then, you know, had to turn around and I got the SEPA loan. I'm in the exact same boat as all of you guys. The only difference is I have the knowledge to be able to get through that. Now I do see we have a chat or question in chat. Is
That's
that
still yours.
Oh, that's still me. Okay, perfect. We'll keep going then.
Yay.
All right. So the solution, because this is what we need to focus on, is the solution. So we need to learn what went wrong. We need to decide what to change. We need to gain education. We then need to make those changes. And then that will lead us all to succeed. And there we are. Okay, so today we are here to focus on a little bit on deciding what to change and gaining the education. We've only got an hour. I cannot teach you everything that you need to know, but there's enough packed in here to be able to definitely give you value, give you ideas, give you starting points. And then we are doing a follow-up workshop, which there will be more details about later. It's a half day, I believe it's in person here through the Small Business Center. And that is where we are going to dig in a lot deeper and really be able to do those things to make changes. So let's focus right now very quickly on what you can't change. CBA loans. That is a big concern for all of us.
Tanya, can you just tell people on the video who are listening later on what the CBA loan is real quick and why some of them are concerned about it?
Absolutely. And that's coming up here.
Perfect.
Yes.
Wow, I was ahead of it. My apologies.
That's okay. That's okay. It's, you know, it's good because if it wasn't in here, then that would be something really important. So the CBA loan, the one thing I didn't go into is a little bit about kind of what it is and why it came out. I've got more just the details in here. So the CBA loan is what the government came out. It's a Canadian emergency business account, and they were loans that they came out with to help businesses through COVID. It was done through the banks, but the government was guaranteeing the loans through this time period to be able to, again, help the small businesses to not have to close down. So the first loans were put out, there was 40,000 and there was $10,000 of forgivable. An additional 20,000 with an additional 10,000 forgivable. So in total, if you took the 60,000, then that means there's 20,000 forgivable. We will get into a little bit more detail of that as well too. In order to have it any portion forgivable, the full amount, the full loan total, so if you took the full 60, you had to have 60,000 of eligible expenses. Those are non-deferrable expenses such as payroll, rent and property taxes, utilities, insurance, and specific pre-existing debt. So the specific pre-existing debt, if you were, you know, manufacturing or, you know, had a loan out on your property, for example, if it was commercial property, commercial equipment, anything like that, if the loan was very specific and the government, you know, had to look at that and approve all of that, then your payments could actually be considered in there because they were non-deferrable. So there was, you know, a lot that basically could be included in here. Right. Apparently I've got too many clicks on this. It's definitely me. There we are. So conditions of the loan. So first off, there is a link to the FAQs if you're looking for it. But the conditions of the loan is that the loan, it was originally due December 31st of 2022. The deadline was extended to December 31st of 2023. What a lot of people don't know is you are personally responsible for the debt.
That's a key point.
It is a huge key point. Forgivability conditions are the entire amount of the unforgivable loan is due December 31st, 2023. So if you took just the initial 40,000, then 30,000 is due. If you took the 60, then 40,000 is due. Your eligible expenses must be of the entire loan amount, and the forgivable amount is taxable on your business income the year the loan was received. So that part should have been done for all of us already. Many clicks here. Okay. What happens if you can't pay the balance off? So if you haven't met the forgivability conditions, the entire amount of the initial loan or your remaining balance, because some people have paid a portion off already, excluding the forgivable portion, converts to 2-year loan with the bank at 5% interest. So what that means is if you paid, you know, half the loan off, you're not meeting the forgivability conditions. So that means that you've lost that. You now have to pay the initial amount of the loan in full. And that will again be at 5% interest converted to whichever bank you do your commercial banking with. So you've closed your business. You're personally responsible. You're not, I think this actually skipped over. Did this skip over one? No. Nope. Okay. Okay, perfect. So what happens if you close your business? This is a concern that a lot of people have had. It's tough. If you close your business, you are still personally responsible for this. You are not protected by bankruptcy of business. And that was in the fine print. And a lot of people did not read that fine print. A lot of people just said, great, it's money. I can use this for cash flow, and just went and did it. The debt is then transferred from the business to your personal debt. and it will impact your credit rating. So that is very important to use or to learn and to know. So CEBA loans, what is happening right now, the CFIB, which is the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, is lobbying on behalf of small businesses to have the deadline extended by 1 to 2 years. We've not heard anything on that yet. I have a feeling we're not going to hear until last minute if the deadline is extended or not. Excuse me. So right now we have to plan as though the deadline is not extended and that it is due this December. The CFIB is also lobbying to increase the forgivable portion of the loan to at least 50%, up to 30,000. So depending, again, if you took 40,000, if this gets approved, then it would be 20,000 owing. If you took the full 60, then 30,000 would be owing. Again, they're lobbying this. None of this may happen. This is just what they're trying to do. And to allow those that applied and received the money and were later determined ineligible to keep the forgivable portion. So what that means is a lot of people, again, went out, didn't understand, just applied. And then the government started going through and auditing and saying, hey, you didn't provide this, you didn't provide that, but they had already given the money. So now they are now required to repay the whole thing. So CFIB is trying to say, look, this is going to hurt small businesses more than it's going to benefit all of us as a whole. So at least let them keep the forgivable portion. So that's what they're trying to do. If you are interested, there's where you can sign the petition at CFIB. And we are CFIB members personally as well, which is how I know all of this through that. Now, Restaurants Canada is also lobbying to the government. They're lobbying for something different, though. They're trying to look at a better balance, thinking that this might be something the government might accept. Because what we all have to remember is the government is still, we're in financial crisis. The government is this, they're still in the same financial crisis that we are. They need money because they've paid it all out, so they need it. So we, try to find something that's a good balance. So Restaurants Canada is saying, well, let's try to have the deadline extended by 36 months. And they're recommending a scaled down model on the forgivable portion with a 5% decrease every 6 months to encourage timely repayment. What that means is if you've paid half of it, then you will get a portion of it forgivable. And for every 6 months that it's not paid, there's just, a 5% decrease on the remaining balance of the forgivable. So that's a little bit more of a balance and a little bit easier for businesses to start to pay back. And I think a lot of us know that restaurants were hit probably one of the worst by this completely. So this will encourage people to pay what they can as soon as they can without losing their full forgivable amount. Because if the deadline is extended, the government's not going to collect any of that money, or the banks won't collect any of that money. So this is kind of, right in the middle here. And again, they're lobbying. We have no idea what's going to happen. So we have to plan as though none of that is going to happen. So first off, before we go on, are there any questions yet at this point with regards to the CEBA loan, any eligible expenses, anything like that? I don't see any hand raised or questions in chat. You can take yourself off mute and just speak out if you'd like. All right. Okay, so we'll move forward. So what we cannot change, if you can't pay the CEBA loan, it's 24 months of payments at 5% interest. That means your payments was $2,632.30 a month for 24 months to repay that. That's a big chunk for some of us to add in to a budget, because we're not thinking about that at this point in time, but we need to start thinking about that and planning for that. And your total interest paid for the 2-year loan at the 5% will be $3,174.80. So more than 1 month of payments just strictly in interest to the bank. But let's take a look at what we can change. This is, what we need to focus on. Can't do anything about what we can. We need to accept that. What we can change is your financial plan. So the solution, as far as I'm concerned, is we need to think outside of the box. I think everybody knows all the basic stuff: sell more, spend less. That doesn't really do anything. It's not really actionable. So a couple of things. First off, start saving. We need to start now. Set up a separate account to start putting the money aside into. I do recommend that, I've recommended to all of my clients and myself as well. I've got the money sitting there in the bank account to pay the CEBA loan back. I'm not paying it back until last minute, because if I pay it back early, that may make me ineligible for any new changes that come through if any of these lobbying efforts are successful. So I want to set myself up in that position, as well as have that in case I need it, in case cash flow does get impacted. So I want to be able to pull it out if I need to, but have it separate so that in my mind, that's not my money. And I need to really think about if I want to pull that out or not. So it just really helps you to think a little bit separate about that. But having that money there and available if you need it is great. Now, increase your cash flow. How do you do that? You can reduce the amount of time inventory sits on the shelf or the amount of time to get paid. I do have thoughts and solutions for each of those as well that we'll get into a little bit later. Or you can increase your sales while keeping the same levels of inventory or collecting at the same rate. Because a lot of people think, oh, I need to buy to sell. We're going to get into a lot of that. So let's just click here. So did you know most business owners make less than minimum wage if you were to actually calculate your hours worked into your income? Pretty sad and pretty bleak. Sorry to point this stuff out, but I need to make sure that we light a fire under you so that you can make those changes to break that cycle. 82% of businesses fail in their first 5 years due to poor cash flow, not due to poor ideas, not due to anything except for the poor cash flow. And that comes with not having a business plan. And if your total salary to yourself is less than 2% of your sales, so this is something you can really easily figure out. Did you know you can make more money by doing nothing and having your money sit in a savings account? That's not why you started the business. I know that. That's not why I started my business. So again, this is not to say take the money, throw it in your bank account, sit and do nothing. It's to put that fire under you to say, hey, you deserve to make more than that. And that's what you should be aiming to be able to have. And cash flow is not what you see on your profit and loss and balance sheet financial reports. This is a big one. I don't know how many times that people have said to me, well, my profit and loss says I made $80,000, but my bank account doesn't have 80,000. Where is it? Where's my money? Cash flow is very, very different. And that is really important to understand, because your profit and loss has in there essentially. So your profit and loss has your total accounts receivable. Well, if you've got $80,000, on your profit and loss, 60,000 is owed to you. That means there's, just from that alone, there's 20,000 in your bank account, and accounts receivable is huge for a lot of people. So this is why we want to take a look at, and how I mentioned earlier, let's take a look at how you can get that money in, get it collecting, get that cash flow. But that's just really important that, again, when you're looking at your profit and loss and balance sheets, that is not cash flow. Very, very different. Okay, so we are going to take a little bit of a break here. I have got a video that we're going to share. I need to make sure that the sound is on there. So as soon as I play, I don't know if there's anything separate we need to do. Let's just see.
Hey, welcome to Bob's Barbecue. I'm Bob. What can I get? Shift it over.
I have to shift it over.
The little, the one right beside that.
Sorry.
It's me, the speaker. Yeah. Oh, no, it's at 100.
It's at 100. So is there anybody that can somebody come off mute and let me know if you were able to hear any of that? It could be that I just have to share my screen with sound.
I can hear it really well.
You can hear really well. Thank you. If that was Olga, thank you very much, Olga. Okay, perfect.
Olga.
So this is just, I thought, you know what, we'll come in, we'll do this. I love this. I actually coach accounting professionals as well. And I have every single one of them watch this video when we talk about pricing. And you guys are going to understand why having yourself priced correctly, whether it be products or services that your business offers, is so important.
Welcome to Bob's Barbecue. I'm Bob. What can I get for you? Can I get a pulled pork sandwich? Is that for here or to go? For here. And it's one order at Gearbox on domestic legislation. Got one pulled pork coming up. So how much is that gonna cost? $60 an hour. Sorry, what? Yes, $60 an hour. You know, a buck a minute. It's how we've always done it. So how long is it gonna take? Typically 5 minutes, but 6:30 to 8:30 PM is our busy season, so it's hard to tell for sure. So you can't actually tell me how much it's gonna cost. We haven't made it yet. Yeah, keep your pants on. Okay, so it's probably gonna cost about $5. Yeah, that's right, Bernanke. It should take about 5 minutes. So do you ever finish in less than 5 minutes? Dude, there was this one time we made a pulled pork in 3.5 minutes. Guy saved so much money, he bought hush puppies. And how much are hush puppies? Hello, $60 an hour. Now, unfortunately, that day we did have a problem with the fryer, and it ended up costing $14 for his hush puppies. But those hush puppies got our undivided attention. 14 minutes. Ended up being some pretty damn good hush puppies too. Remember those hush puppies, Jimbo? Damn good hush puppies, Bob. Damn.
You don't pay for your food service this way, so why would you pay for your business management software projects this way?
So obviously, you're not necessarily in business management software, but I just think that is just really humorous to be able to bring up that, especially those of us that are providing services, doesn't make sense to do that quite a bit. So we do have, okay, so Sean just said, yes, we can hear. So that's perfect. Okay. So that's awesome. So how many of you guys like related to that? Like just go ahead again, throw it in the chat, speak out if you want. I'm not sure how many of you provide services versus products. So big time. Okay, good, Sean. That's awesome. So yeah, because I'm not too sure about the demographics again, if you're just products or services. So no, but that's great. So perfect. So the solution, this is where we need to look into things. So when we take a look at your sales, you need to look at your services and products. Look at a different way to provide your services. Look at different ways to sell your products. So your services, what I coach on for anybody that's doing services, sometimes it's difficult and you kind of have to do certain things by the hour, but do it by the outcome and the value. That's really important as well too, because let's say you've got, let's just say, for example, you were an employee and you've got more certifications, you've got more training, you've gone and you've taken the education, and therefore you can do your job faster, you can do it better. What's going to happen? You're going to get bonuses, you're going to get raises. As a business owner who provides services, what happens to us? Our wages drop because we can go through everything quicker, which means that we're billing less per hour. So what you should be focusing on is the deliverables. What is the value you're providing to your clients, and what's the deliverables, and what are the outcomes? So most services can easily be done like that. So just look at that a different way. Is there a different way to be able to do that? Because then you can plan and budget because you know exactly what you've got coming in. Because if you're billing by the hour and you don't know what the work is and how much work you have to do, you can't budget yourself either, and your clients can't budget. So your clients will understand and appreciate exactly, you know, what their fits into their budget. So, you know, think about your insurance. Insurance is something that they've been doing it like that for ages. They bill in advance. Here's the outcome. If you're in an accident, we're going to cover you. If you are in insurance is my background. So I do previous life, my very first career. So I do tend to go to that quite a bit for examples, but they can do it that way. There are a lot of services that do it that way. You walk into your mechanic, you know what you know exactly what it's going to cost on your car. Most of the time these days, when you go in, and I'm sorry if there's any mechanics in the room that I'm giving away your secrets, but if you go in and you pay for an hour and a half of diagnostic, you know what? That mechanic's actually working on another car while a computer is doing the diagnostic. That is the value. And they've paid tens of thousands of dollars for that computer to be able to do the diagnostic. And if they were charging for the hours somebody was actually looking at your car, they wouldn't be able to do that. So think of it that way. And looking at different ways to sell your products. We had a client that right at the beginning of COVID, like she was doing great up until COVID, and she had a thrift store. She was out in Hamilton, and she had a thrift store, and people were coming in. And so she went to start to switch online. And then she almost had a full-on breakdown when she says, Tanya, COVID is starting to lift, but I can't have people back in the store. People are going to come in and I'm going to have to wash everything. I'm going to spend all of my time cleaning everything down because of touching and all of these new rules. She says, I'm not going to be able to do it. So what we did, her and I put our heads together, and she actually came up with a completely different business model from that. So we changed her business model to a unique shopping experience. So the store was closed down, it was appointment only, and she would take groups. And so you would tell her what it is you were looking for. She would go antique sales and all of this and try to get it. And it was more like a celebrity shopping experience. She served, hors d'oeuvres and mimosas and had this beautiful area for you to sit on and brought everything out. And so the people were looking at more, but not touching as much. And that actually was a higher value service. And that is the business model she still runs today. And she is much more successful on that side of it than she was before, because people were paying for the experience and the value, and that not just coming in and buying, a $5 product. So she was able to attract different clientele and make a real change on her business. So there are different ways that you can do that. We had another client who is an event, she's promotional. She's the promotional materials, marketing materials. And 90% of her business came from conferences. Conferences shut down. What's she going to do? So her and I spoke, we, got some ideas going back and forth, and she went out to, TELUS and Rogers and Bell, and went out to all these big companies, said, okay, you've now got your employees working from home. Let's make them feel interactive. So she had different packages put together, not just the normal swag stuff. She actually went outside of the box, and she had stuff for people who have, pets at home. Okay, here's something to keep your dog satisfied, because how many of us heard right at the very beginning, I know there was something that went viral, a Zoom video that a part of it went viral because the dogs took over the conversation of everybody in home. So it's like, okay, come out with that. If you've got kids at home, something to keep the kids occupied, or your cat, so that your cat's not walking in front of the computer screen. So she came out with different ideas, and she is more successful. Now the conference has opened back up. I mean, her business is huge. She's no longer a client because she hired a full-time bookkeeper. She needed somebody full-time, and we couldn't match her needs. So this is where you need to look at different ways to be able to provide your services and sell your products. So think outside of the box. There is a different way to be able to do things. And just because that's the way it's always been done does not mean it's the best way in today's circumstance. Okay, so are your services and products priced correctly? This is huge. A lot of us didn't increase our prices or fees through COVID, and it's now hit us as, because costs have increased. My software costs still went up. I still started paying my team more. They were worth more, minimum wage went up. I'm not going to turn around and say, oh, because of COVID, I'm sorry, I'm not giving you a price, a rate increase this year, or a salary increase. I can't do that. But I felt bad for our clients, did not increase. Now I'm looking at it as we're 20% below. So I'm eating obviously that, because I can't turn around and raise my clients' prices by 20%. So I'm having to, go through and figure this out, but we need to make sure that we're thinking with our business owner hat, not with our hearts, because that is going to impact us. So I'd love to hear if any of you were in the same boat, like throw it in the chat. Again, just jump out. Let me know if any of you guys did the same thing, froze your prices because of that, and now are realizing that, shouldn't have done that. Now, another thing, is there government funding to take advantage of? I know that here at the Small Business Center, they can definitely help you with that, with the grants. There is a lot of grants out there that you may be eligible for and may not even be aware of. So make sure you're looking into all of that, because that can help hugely with your cash flow. Okay, so was there any questions before we move on to the next, which is cost of goods? Is there any questions on here? Does anybody have anything they want to throw out? Questions on that you want any advice on or ideas on your sales? Nope. All right. Well, hopefully I'm making you guys all think. You're quiet. This is concerning me, but hopefully I'm making you think. That's the whole purpose of this presentation, is I want you to think. Okay, so, accounts receivable is next. So accounts receivable, are you receiving the money at the time of the sale? And this is huge with people that are providing services that we're not necessarily doing that. If you go into a store, you go into Tim Hortons, you go into Walmart, you go into any store, any of us that are doing products, we're likely doing that and collecting the money at the time of the sale. But if you're providing a service, or you're dealing with wholesale, or you have accounts, you might be letting the account sitting there. Well, that's taking money out of your cash flow. That's money owed to you that you could be collecting. Are you providing the services before getting paid? That's a big thing. Is because then what happens, and I know taxes, we sold the tax side of the business, thankfully just before COVID hit. But on that side of things, we used to have people that would come in and drop off their taxes. I would go through and do their taxes. And then at the very end, they're like, oh, well, can I pay you next month? Well, don't bring it in until you're ready. It's, or let me make that decision as to whether I want to do that or not. But think about it, your insurance, your cell phone, you go out and you get a cell phone, your first bill is prorated to cover your first month plus your extra days, your internet. Everything is like that. You go into a lawyer's office, you're going to have to pay a retainer. So those of you that are providing services, why are you doing it after getting paid? If you have to go by billing by the hour and there's no way around getting away from that, you should be collecting a retainer, because you're still paying for your software. You're still paying for your team's time. You're still paying for all of that before you're getting paid. So by the time you get paid, you've already put money out. That impacts your cash flow. So what you want to do is take a look at again, doing a different thing, collecting the money. I know here we collect the money up front. So if you start services on the 1st, your payments due on the 1st for that month. So I don't have any accounts receivable. It's great, unless I make that decision in certain circumstances. There's always something like that, but for the most part, no, we collect the services we collect the money before we provide the services, which means I can then afford to pay for everything, and I don't have that issue with that. So that's one thing that you've got to take a look at. Now, do you offer ways to collect the money at the time of the transaction? So again, this is probably more for those of us with services. But if there's ways to collect the money at the time of the transaction to make it easier instead of mailing a check, because if you mail a check, again, that's impacting your cash flow. It's adding, 7 to 10 days before they do that. And that's only if they remember to drop the check off. It's not that they don't want to pay you. It's just that other things come up. And I know myself, if I don't pay it right away, I forget as well too. It's just other things come up. Maybe they've got businesses as well, or things come up in their personal life. So offer ways to collect the money. So you can offer, pre-authorized debit agreements. There's software out there that can take care of that. You can offer credit cards. There's tons of ways that you can do that. And it's important to remember, you are not a bank and you are not in the business of providing loans. And by doing your services, providing your services before you're getting paid, you're essentially turning yourself into a loan provider, short-term loan provider, but still a loan provider nonetheless. Really, really important to change your thinking on that. Any questions or thoughts on that before we move on to the next section?
I have a question.
Luke, yes, thank you.
We talk about this a lot, but do you know of any apps, which is a popular thing now, that help to manage these kinds of payment options in the field, or for the tradespeople, or mobile payment collection?
Absolutely. There are a ton of them, and that's a great question. Thank you, Luke. If you are not in the field, Rotessa is absolutely, they're Canadian based, and they're great for services. That is who we use. They are extremely cheap. And if anybody is looking for a referral to there, if you reach out to me through Luke, whatever, I can get you 30% off. All of my clients, and I don't care if you're paying, like if you're actually a client, but anybody I refer over gets 30% off, but it's up to 50 transactions a month for under $30. If you're under 10 transactions, it works out to be like $9 or something like that. So it's really good. And that's an automatic direct deposit. Pluto is another one that's good for services. And then I'll get to the other ones for people actually out in the field with sales too. But Pluto, they're good for people that do a really, really high volume with that. And RBC PayEdge, they're the top 3 in Canada. Absolutely. If you're doing cross-border, I would recommend Veeam. And Veeam is VEEM, and they are amazing. Their largest office is in San Jose. Their head office is Ottawa. So they are Canadian based. They do cross-border because they use blockchain technology. It is cheaper to do the foreign exchange than at the bank. You will not pay your $29.99 or $19.99 that it generally is for your wire transactions. It does come through a couple of days quicker than wire, and you will actually just pay the transfer rate, which is about on average 1% cheaper than the bank. Absolutely amazing, and just can be used just for every now and then. So those are great for services. If you're looking at, you're going out for the products, what I would recommend, Square is good. Just please, before you connect Square to QuickBooks Online, if you're using that, talk to your bookkeeper or accounting professional. Square can come in really yucky. The things to be aware of with Square, Stripe, because Square does have the portable machine. Clover is another one that has the portable machine. If you're using any of those, the big thing to keep in mind is that the money that goes into your bank account is less the fees. And a lot of people think that, oh, what goes into my bank account is my taxable income. That is not true. You need to report your taxable income, and then you need to report those fees as merchant payment fees. So you're taxed on the amount before those fees come out. So that can make 3% difference in what you're reporting to Revenue Canada. And I bring it up later in the presentation, but Revenue Canada right now needs money. And so they're going to be auditing more. If they come in and see that once, guaranteed they're going to be on you for, up to 10 years, however long you've been in business, because they'll say, oh, you've done it wrong now, we can collect money. You've done it wrong every year in the past. So just make sure that when you're using something like that, that you do check with your accounting professional. I do recommend the bookkeeper as well over the accountant. The reason being, and I get into this a little bit later as well too, the differences between an accountant and bookkeeper are education and what we do. The accountant looks at things like, let's say you're in an airplane and you look down the ground. That's what the accountant is seeing. He's looking at things from a 50,000 foot view. The accountant might be able to see things like crop circle that we can't see as bookkeepers because we're not at that level. But the bookkeepers, our job is we're down on the ground. We're actually looking like one blade of grass at a time. We're looking for those little bugs in there and digging the worms out, and like we're right in the mud. And so the details are definitely what the bookkeepers are better at, and apps and integrations into QuickBooks Online. Again, those are part of dealing with the details. That is something that a bookkeeper is going to pick up and be able to help you with better versus an accountant. An accountant, again, we've each got our jobs. It's just like a doctor and a nurse. We do absolutely different things, but nonetheless, each is extremely important to work together. So just make sure you're going to the right professional on things like that. But yeah, so again, there's Square, Clover, there's Moneris Go, Stripe has one. There's again a lot of services that you can do for that. There are also other apps that integrate. So if you've got high sales, maybe you're doing e-commerce, maybe, and selling on Amazon or whatnot, you can integrate, and we actually have 2 of our clients that use an app called Bookkeep. And Bookkeep takes that Stripe or that Square integration and brings in the sales and the taxes and everything. So none of that has to
Wow.
manually be done. There's another one, A2X. In Canada, that is priced for large companies. We don't work with A2X at all. I know the owners, they're absolutely amazing, but we just don't work with companies that big. And Bookkeep is extremely reasonable, and you can get like just the cost of the app is, I want to say, in between $39 and $50 a month. And if it can save you a couple of hours of time, well worth it. But again, you want to make sure that you're getting it set up properly. Now, I've worked with their development team. They can help you get things set up properly. If you don't have a bookkeeper, they can make sure to do it. They are very educated, and I've worked with them in the back end to make sure they understand things. And one of my friends in BC still works with them in the back end. So they are extremely knowledgeable on stuff like that. So again, there's a lot of options out there for you. And Wave. So Wave is a free app. So Wave does bookkeeping. Thank you, Sean. The one thing I will caution, thank you. I will caution you on with Wave. Wave, there's QuickBooks Self-Employed, which is very cheap. There is the free version of FreshBooks. There's a lot out there. They do not do proper bookkeeping in the fact that they do not recognize accounts receivable and accounts payable properly. So just be very, very careful. They will definitely help with your cash in and cash out, but that's about it. They're cash-based apps, the free versions of it. Anything that it really comes from the States, and Wave does come from the States first. The States, they work on a cash-based scenario for accounting and bookkeeping. Canada does not. We work on accrual. And what that means is if you get a bill, we have to enter it in as the date on the bill or the date on your invoice. Whether you've paid the money or collected it, does not matter. You are taxed based on the date of your invoice and the date of your bill. So that is what then creates the accounts receivable and the accounts payable. The US and a lot of the apps that come from the US and, you know, Wave and whatnot, the basic free apps work on a cash base. That you can get away with that if you're a sole proprietor. If you're a corp, absolutely not. If the government comes in and sees you don't have proper accounts payable or accounts receivable, you're in trouble. So I do believe, I don't know Wave, but I do believe in Wave, there are ways that you can manually do that, but then that would take a little bit of knowledge. So again, I just caution you on that depending on your business. Now, if you've got a retail store and you're paying for, you know, cash, or you're paying at the time when your products are delivered and you're receiving money at the time your products are purchased, you don't have a problem, because essentially, even though the government says you have to report accrual, you're still kind of cash based. But as soon as you get into accounts receivable and payable, again, I really caution that you do things properly. I've been dealing with audit since 1997. So that is, I've got a ton of experience on that. I know what CRA is going to think before they think it. And I've got a friend who's an auditor. So anything,
helps.
it absolutely helps. Absolutely helps. All right, so let's move on.
Thank you for your honesty.
Oh, you're very welcome. I am extremely transparent. I will say anything that is, as long as it's true. And this is where I share, again, the same things that, you know, when we got back to the sales, that what I did, and it got me into trouble. And yes, I've, you know, gone and taken a small business loan out as well, because I made those wrong decisions, thinking that, you know what, if I sit up here and say that I know how to run a perfect business and I've never done any of this, first off, you know, I say anybody who says that is lying. But secondly, I think, you know, you're unrelatable to anybody. And I think by making those mistakes and coming through it makes you better and more knowledgeable for things. And so hopefully that's relating to everybody else too, that again, I'm in the same boat and probably, you know, made the same mistakes as every single one of you guys out there, if you've made mistakes. And again, I think nobody is a perfect business owner.
It's the only way we learn.
That's exactly it. And that's the big thing. As long as you can learn from it and we always do what is officially called an after action review, but we take a look, we look at what went wrong and what we can change to make that never happen again.
Back to your first slide.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Exactly. So, okay. So now dealing with cost of goods sold. Do you know your actual cost per product or service? A lot of people actually don't. Do you have your cost of goods set up correctly in your books? Now, I just actually, sorry, want to jump back to your actual cost. So your actual cost is not just what you've paid for it. Your actual cost, when you look at a cost of goods sold, your cost of goods sold would include any subcontracts, any, not necessarily payroll, because payroll, you would pay your team to be there regardless if you had that particular product or service or not, but you're looking at subcontract, you're looking at, you know, your WSIB, you're looking at merchant fees. Your merchant fees are those credit card fees, because if you didn't sell that product or service, you know, in particular, and they didn't pay for the credit card, you wouldn't have had that extra cost. So that all needs to be worked into the cost of goods sold. And that is your actual cost per product and service. If you're dealing with services, you know, now we've got to take in and look at a whole different set of services. Is there a formula for calculating cost and service? Good question, Sean. Yes and no. Yeah, so yes and no. There is, you just need to be able to take a look and know what your full cost of goods is, and sorry, I'm clicking too many, what it actually costs you with those services, and you know, then kind of divide it out. So we are right now going through this. I work with business coaches. I am working with 3 business coaches right now, and all for 3 different reasons. And the one of them, she is forcing me to go in and look at what the actual cost of our products or services. Now, we are very unique in what we offer. Our bookkeeping services, we have so many different services that we offer, because we just don't want to do it. Hey, here's an all or nothing, and here's just my cost. So I can just take my cost divided by my, you know, the number of hours, and that's it. Each one of them is kind of priced differently. We actually have 5 different facets of revenue from the business, because I also deal with the accounting side. I deal with education, and then we also deal with some of the apps as well. So there is, okay, currently 4. There's the 5th one is in the works. Again, like I said at the beginning, I get bored and I don't sleep much. But so we're working with all of that. So when she says, well, what's your, you know, your cost? I'm like, I've got hundreds of services to be able to work that out. So it really depends on the complexity of your service. I wish that it was just as easy as, hey, we've got, you know, we've got a fixed rate, and I pay my contractor, if I'm using a contractor, a fixed rate, and here's all the apps that I use with that client, and boom, it's done. So I think that really the easiest answer to that is, first, make sure you have your cost of goods set up correctly, because a lot of people ignore the cost of goods and just think that's just an operating expense. It's not. An operating expense, a regular operating expense, should be considered as, if you sold that particular product or service, would you still be paying that out? That's what you need to look at. If you weren't paying that out on that particular product or service, then if you were, it'll go cost of goods. If you're not, then it should go expenses. And again, hopefully you've got somebody that you're working with. If not, come to the I think it's a 4-hour workshop. It's a half-day workshop anyway. Come to the workshop. There's going to be lots of times to be able to answer questions and dig in for that. So, you know, or, you know, reach out, because we do have free consultation. So I'm certainly happy to provide any of that if you don't have somebody already that you're using.
And Tanya, just to
Yeah.
if anybody's wondering when and where that is, we'll provide that information on the follow-up when Tamara sends it out. So just.
Perfect, thank
you. Yeah.
It is June 2nd, and that is on a slide at the end, but yes.
Perfect.
June 2nd at I'm not sure the starting time, but Tamara will have that.
I think we decided 8:30.
Oh, was it that early? Making
Yeah.
me get up early.
Or
That's okay.
or maybe that's when I have to get here. Maybe it's 9:30.
That's okay. I work from home, so I literally roll out of bed and go downstairs. So.
Well, basically, it's a chance to, whatever they're thinking and opening up, with the dialogue that you're opening up, then they can bring their actual problems that are applicable to their business, to this workshop.
Exactly.
It's a workshop.
Yes, it is. It is fully interactive. And if you're not interacting, I will be calling on you to interact in a nice way. So not to put too much pressure, but no, it's very interactive. Yeah, and we're going to be going through things. And again, I'm going to be pushing your thinking. So this here, this is just a sprinkling. I'm going to be pushing the thinking of your solutions so that you will have what you need. And then we will be giving as well as some there's a course that's regularly $990 that we're going to be giving anybody who's here a follow-up to go through that completely free. It is not provided through us. It's actually provided through one of my coaches, and it's a Know Your Numbers course. And essentially what that is it goes through your personal budget. It reverse engineers your personal budget. You do not have to do anything. Of course, at the very end of the course, just like anything, she is going to try to do an upsell. You don't have to upsell, just do it and you're gone. Don't worry about that. She knows that that's what we're using it for our clients, or anybody, you know, special people. We'll call you special people, not necessarily clients, special people. But you reverse engineer your personal budget to understand what you need to make on your business, to be able to align with your personal financial goals and your personal future. I've been through it twice. And as an accounting professional, it blew my mind. Leanne's been through it once, just the once, but it blew my mind because I don't think about things the way that she presented it. And I don't normally think about the personal. I just think, okay, the business, I can pay my bills, that's it. So it's a really, really different way of thinking. And so we'll be giving you that at the end, but you have to be here at the workshop to be able to get that.
You gotta get the invite. Come to
Yeah,
the workshop.
exactly. Got to do that to get that, but it's really helpful because right now, again, we're just passionate about helping people get through this and you know, financial education and knowing what you need to make is really important. And it's through her that I learned that, or realized, shall we say, that it's 2% or more. You could just have it sitting in a savings account. I'm like, really?
Wow,
Really?
all I did last week for nothing, yeah.
But exactly. Yeah, one of the other interesting things that she does talk about that I'm just going to drop here because again, it blew me away when she said that is before the pandemic, Canada as a country was in the #2 spot for financial distress.
Oh,
Wow.
Guess who the first one was? Anybody, any guesses
I
out
wanna
there?
say America.
That was who I thought
Yeah.
at first. I thought the States. Nope, it was Greece.
I was gonna say Greece.
Greece
Get
claimed,
out, really?
Greece claimed bankruptcy. So
Oh,
guess where
the
that
poor
puts
country.
Canada?
Wow.
Yeah, and when you
Wow.
think that we are like, it's insane. And so this is why I'm so passionate about financial
Gotta get our
education.
numbers in order.
We absolutely do. So, okay, so let's move on. So,
Thank you.
no, you're welcome. Okay, so the cost of goods, again, make sure that's set up correctly in your books. So again, bring all your questions, come to this workshop so we can make sure that you're set up with that. Look at different ways to collect sooner. We talked about that a little bit earlier in your accounts receivable, your PAD agreements, your credit cards, but make sure that you know that that is a cost of goods sold. So to make sure that you include your merchant and payment fees as a cost of doing business, they should be included in your cost of goods sold fees. All right, next we have expenses. Are you claiming everything you are entitled to? Are you paying cash or from a personal account? Because that can be lost money. If you don't hand that receipt in, it can be lost money. I know any business that comes to us, we're like, that's one of the first questions. And we're like, stop paying cash, stop paying from your personal account, because you're either going to pay us to now manage your personal stuff, which you don't want to do, or you're going to potentially miss it. You might think you're never going to miss it, but how many times does it, get stuck in your jeans pocket or in the bottom of your purse, and then it goes through the wash, or you leave it in the car on a hot summer day, and next thing you know, the receipt is bleached. There's nothing on there. So that's lost money.
#1 solution for lost cash payments is bank account.
Yes.
Bank statement.
Well, yes and no. So the bank statement and credit card. So you having your business, having come from your business credit card or your business bank tells us there was something. So now you need to go look for it. But you can still lose that receipt, or that receipt can still get bleached. There's different things like that. So you still have to keep careful of that. Your bookkeeper does have the solution that you can do that. The one that most people use in Canada is Dex. If you use QuickBooks Online yourself, take a picture, attach it to there. Wave has that. All of those have that. FreshBooks, whatever you're using for the solution, they have that. but take a picture, get it in there. It's online. You don't have to worry about it. And it's, if you can take a selfie, you can take a picture of your receipt and get it up there. It is just that easy. If you don't have anything like that and you're using Excel sheets, set up a free Dropbox account or something and take pictures and send it there, or a Google account. And excuse me, and work with that, because that way it'll protect you, because CRA can go back 7 years. Now, there's certain things that they may or may not ask for, but if you don't have a clear receipt and can prove that that came from your bank account. So I know a lot of people, I had a brother-in-law who said every time you gas up, you know who he is. It's Leanne's father. And of course, this was like decades ago. Every time you gas up, give it to me. I can write it off. I can write it off.
There's no way that car could do that.
Well, exactly. But, you know, once I was, you know, still back in insurance in those days. But once I actually got into starting to deal with audits, no, what CRA looks for, is it reasonable? Is it justifiable? And can you prove it? So meaning, can you prove it is they're going to say, okay, well, you spent X number of dollars. If they've got any questions on it, they're going to say, okay, now I want to see the bank account or credit card that it came out of, even if it's your personal account. Now, if it comes out of your personal account, that can open your personal account up for scrutiny. So you want to avoid that, just completely avoid it. So absolutely have that. There are even things like float cards. Again, there's apps that takes care of this stuff. So there's float cards that if you've got employees that you're giving, you know, expense accounts to, they can do that. It then forces them to take a picture and upload it right away and sends it through. And these are prepaid credit cards that can sync with your accounting software and do that. So there is a solution for anything out there. Again, bring your questions and concerns to the workshop. We will solve all of those for you. Not submitting your receipts quickly. It's lost money, especially on your ITCs if you're registered for HST, because if you don't if you don't submit it, you can lose it. So that's lost money. And either that, or again, it can fade the thermal receipts, they fade over time. Even if they're not sitting in a hot car will fade them within a day or two. But if they're in, you know, a box in your basement, they'll still fade within a year or two. And again, CRA can go back 7 years and they're going to look for that receipt. Now there's, you know, it's a toss-up as to who you get and if they're going to ask for that or not. But if they find that you don't have some receipts, that is the door opening for them to say, ha, we can get more money back from you. We're going to go back more years. So
They don't actually say, ah, got you.
they do in their heads. They do in their heads, because believe it or not, they have a quota. So I'm going to share this. I'm going to share this little tidbit with you guys.
It's a business. The
Every-
country is a business.
It is a business. Every CRA auditor has a quota of 5. They have to find 5 things wrong with every file that they touch. So if they touch your file, they have to keep digging until they find 5, or determine when to give up. But when they give up, if they only found 2, that's 3 that carries over to the next file. So that is important to know. So your habits are hugely important. So get a bookkeeper, you know, professional, or work with one to ensure you're doing things right. Make sure you have that knowledge. I know there's a lot of small businesses that do it themselves, and that's great, but make sure you're getting the right information. The worst thing, and everybody in our office cringes, and we hear this regularly, I know a guy. That is the worst thing, because the fact that that guy's not in jail yet is just pure luck. So make sure that you're working with one, or you're getting some proper education. CRA has courses. We have lots of free stuff. The Small Business Center has many of us professionals that are coming out. I'm not the only one that comes here and works with them. So there is a lot of free resources if you can't afford it. It's out there. Just make sure you're getting the right stuff. Don't listen to your friend, because if your friend actually knew what they were talking about, they would be in that business. So remember that. Avoid working with somebody who won't follow the rules, because at the end of the day, you sign your tax return, you are responsible for what's in there.
Not your friend.
Nope,
Nope.
not your friend, not your bookkeeper, and not your accountant. Unless I do have, you know, anybody, the good ones, we don't all have the, kitchen table bookkeepers don't necessarily have liability insurance, but all bookkeepers should have liability insurance. Accountants do have to have liability insurance. What happens with that, however, is you have to prove that I have purposely done something wrong in order for the liability insurance to even kick in. If I made a mistake on your file, no, doesn't matter. But even if you've done something wrong, you are still responsible for CRA because you signed that return. So this is where financial fluency on your own books is so important. So don't just pass them off to somebody and have them do it, and make sure you're doing it right. If you're working with somebody who won't follow the rules, that is just asking for trouble with CRA, and CRA is not going to accept the excuse, well, they did it and I trusted them. No, it is your responsibility. The onus is on you. So make sure you're working with somebody who does follow the rules and not get in trouble. The odd time, I do know of accountants or bookkeepers who have been charged and have gone to jail for doing things, but again, it's they've had to be like, have known what they did was wrong and still purposely done it. Now, the one thing that I do bring up quite frequently is not following the rules can be looked at as tax fraud. Al Capone went to jail for tax fraud. Donald Trump be in charge with tax fraud or tax evasion. Those rules are there. Canada and the US, they are not used generally, but that they can be used, and they've got the power, and you don't want to be that one that they decide to take, to try to make the example of. So just following the rules is absolutely the best thing to do. And use only dedicated business bank accounts and credit cards for business purchases. The odd time, if there's something, they can slide through real nice and easy. But if you get into those habits, that is going to be the best habit for you. And get your receipts submitted all right away, or a picture of them if you're doing it yourself, anything like that. So those are good habits that you want to get into. The outcome, if you do all of that, listen to my advice, you will save money by not having to spend time and money on an accounting professional with CRA reviews and audits. And I've mentioned this a few times already, as we're in a recession, our government needs money. The easiest way that they think to collect it is by going after, because they know there's a lot of small businesses that are not properly claiming because they don't know any better. So that's who they're going for. They're going after some big ones. Personally, I say they should just lay some staff off, but that's it's a whole other conversation. I think they're, underworked and overpaid, but like I say, whole other conversation. But at the end of the day, they need money, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to be looking for it. Let them go look for somebody else. Don't let them find 5 items on yours, because if they find 5 items on yours, they're going to pull you again for a prior year, because again, they can go back 7 years. Audits will be increasing in an attempt to collect money owed to the government. We know this. As soon as the strike is over, people come back. Audits are going to be increasing. They slowed down through COVID to give people a bit of a break. They were just starting them back up, and then they are slowing them down now a little bit, but it's not going to be long, and they're going to come back full force. That also means that CRA tolerance during reviews and audits will be minimal. So, when we've got a lot of money, the tolerance, I've talked to some HST auditors, especially, that is like, oh, you know what? Okay, we tried to slip that one through and it didn't work. And they're like, you know what? That's fine. I'm going to pretend I didn't see it. But right now we need money. They also get bonuses based on the amount of money they can collect. So don't kid yourselves. It is in their best interest for bonuses and raises and, promotions and quotas to find things. That is their job.
I used to call them the CRA police.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, the best way is just work with them. I mean, they're not bad to work. Like, I love
They're
working with
supposed to be
them.
protecting me, so okay.
Well, and you know what, your bookkeeper or accountant, if you're working with an accounting professional, they actually have little dossiers on each and every one of us. I didn't know this. I've known this probably for about 7 years. I didn't know this beforehand. I knew we had a file and I knew they were going to be pulled for a review or audit. It was one of the ones that I can guarantee are always pulled. I had everything ready to submit that they needed because again, I know what they're going to pull or what they're going to ask for. I had it all ready and the business owner called in because we were waiting and she called in and they said, oh, no, it was flagged for review. And she looked and she spoke out loud and she says, oh, a supervisor just approved it through. Your bookkeeper must have a great reputation. And
Wow.
I didn't know anybody that works there at the time, and now that I do, and it's true, they have dossiers on us. So this is where some of our clients have said, oh, can you just slide it through? You know what? No, if I slide it through, they can't come in necessarily and try to put me out of business, but they can turn around and audit all of my clients. Now that's more work for me to do. And then my clients are all talking because if we go by referrals, they're all friends with each other. And then they're like, well, why is all her stuff being audited? And then, so they'll force me out of business that way. So
Reputation.
reputation is big.
Education.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Education, extremely. So avoid incorrect assumptions. So it doesn't matter what it says in my business plan. I know how to run my business. Oh, we're a little bit over. I just realized we've gone over.
It's okay, it's the
We're
last
okay?
slide, right?
Yeah, this is the last slide. Okay.
We're good to go.
Okay, my apologies, everybody. Thank you for your patience. So yeah, it doesn't matter what it says in my business plan. I know how to run my business. Business plans are huge. If I had followed my business plan all through COVID, I would not have had to go out and get that additional loan. I would have been able to head off those wrong or incorrect decisions because I made rushed decisions. I would have had the information to make the correct decision. So business plans are important. I do believe you guys help with that here too, don't you?
We do, yes.
So absolutely. So there you go. It's all my money. So who cares what I do with it? No, not necessarily. If you're a sole prop, that's a little more true. When you're a corporation, people think we're little corporations. It doesn't apply to us. No. It is still embezzlement. If I take money out of the business and use it for personal and don't claim that against my personal taxes, it is embezzlement, regardless if I am a one-person shareholder corporation or, have a board of directors with, a dozen people on it. When you're a corporation, you are looked at very, very differently. So it's not all your money. You have to be lucky to grow quickly. No, some of it can be luck, but most of it is, again, education, knowledge, and business plans. That is huge. As long as I have money in the bank, I'm not out of business. Not true. I've got money in the bank, but I owe more with my loans. If, than is in there. It's helping me with temporary cash flow, but I still need to make smart decisions to be able to stay in business. And again, that comes back to business plan, education. I can't afford to hire a bookkeeper and accountant.
I've heard that one.
Because we work with small businesses, we have worked with people that have tried to do the cheap way, either do it themselves or, hire those people that don't know what they're doing. If you can't afford to hire a bookkeeper accountant, make sure you work with somebody. There's, tons of us out there, again, I said, there's lots of free resources. There's tons of us out there that you can just go and consult with, once a year if you need. There are ways to be able to do it and balance it out, but you can't afford not to because, you could be doing things wrong and not even realize how wrong things are being done. And we've had people that are just crying on the other end that we have come up with 2-year payment plans to be able to pay for all the mistakes we've had to fix from somebody else. So just, you can't afford to not have the knowledge and not have somebody in your back pocket that knows what they're doing. You can't sell inventory if you don't have it, and you can't have too much. Not true. Inventory sitting on the shelf is like money sitting in a bank account that is frozen that you don't have access to. You need to get that inventory moving. That is cash flow because you can't write it off until it's sold and you've just paid for it. There's zero benefit to it sitting on the shelf. And if my profit and loss says I made money, why don't I have any? Well, we've already talked about that. So, and I've known them for years. They're good for the money. No.
Oh dear.
First off, we do not combine business and personal. But if you like good fences make good neighbors, good payment options make good friends. Last thing you want to do is end up in that situation where you've afforded somebody to pay later and now they've not paid you because of whatever. So, definitely keep that relationship professional on that side of it and keep the personal on the personal side.
Brilliant.
And that was jam-packed with lots of information. So the half-day workshop, June 2nd, again, tomorrow, 2023, sorry, typo there. So yeah, tomorrow.
And then.
Tamara, exactly. And yeah, if there's any information, again, reach out to them here. We're happy if you guys do want to, come in for, one of our free discoveries, just email myself or Leanne at support@mycbs.ca, or better yet, show up at the half-day workshop. The more people that come, the better it's going to be, and the more we'll be able to learn. And I do have another video to show that it's 6 minutes, a little bit longer, but it's really going to make you guys think. It's about making toast and how many ways you can make toast and why you shouldn't just do it all
The
the same way you've done it. Toast Kaizen, if anybody's heard about that. Okay, so is there any questions now that
Yep,
we've gone over?
that's while the video starts.
No, we're saving that for the workshop.
Oh,
We're saving
They
that
have
for
to
the
come to the
workshop.
workshop to see it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the Toast Kaizen have to come to the workshop to see it, or you've got to Google it and look it up.
Okay.
But it's really good. It just shows how inefficient somebody is just simply at making toast, and how many other ways you
Is
can do
Mr.
that.
Bean starring in it, maybe?
No, it's just the guy. It's just, I've never seen him before, but my husband works at Kellogg's and
Ah,
they do that all the time. So when I showed him this video, he's like, oh yeah, that's Kaizen. We do that all the time. And Kaizen is actually Japanese, and it's a way of just looking at things from a different angle and saying, what can,
Manufacturers, yeah.
yeah, what can you do more efficient, but it can be applied into anything.
Yeah.
All right.
Sean had a question here.
Yes, I see that. So earlier I mentioned something about paying taxes on fee collection. I was going to circle back on this. Can I clarify? So on your fee, so that's I'm assuming you're referring to the Stripe. So yeah, so what happens is if you're using Stripe or Square, they take the fees off before the money goes into your bank account. Wix does
we
the
get
same
paid
thing.
upfront.
Any of that, yeah, you get paid up front and the money goes into your bank account. But let's say your item is $100 plus taxes, and then their fees are, 3%. What goes into your bank account is not your $113, it's your $113 less your 3% fees. So what happens is if you're not careful and doing everything properly, a lot of people just say, okay, well, what went into my bank account is what I'm taxed on. That's not true. So what happens is, at the end of the year, your tax return goes in, let's saying that, yeah, you've got $100,000 in income because that's what hit your bank account. But meanwhile, when you pull the Square reports, the Square report says, no, sorry, it was $103,000. So CRA is only collecting taxes initially on that 100,000 when it should be on that 103,000 for your income taxes, either the corporate or your sole prop income taxes. And that is going to be a huge flag for them to come in, because we need to pay on before the fees, and then the fees come out of the cost of goods sold. So you get to write the fees off. It's just the way it happens. And a lot of people make that mistake and just say, okay, I'm just claiming what hits my bank account.
One of those hidden cost of goods.
It is, absolutely it is. It is. And the government, again, they're looking for money. They want their taxes on that extra 3,000. That's all there is to it. And then they'll go back several other years for that as well too. So does that clear things up for you, Sean? Perfect. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a short note. First of all, thanks a lot, Tanya and Tamara, for organizing that interesting webinar workshop. And my small question is, I tried to type that www.mybank.com my CBS, and I got the result. There are no matches for your search.
All right, well, let's take a look here.
Probably wouldn't be searchable.
Yeah, and I tried.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Olga, found it
Oh,
right.
mybank.com/mycbs.
I'm putting it as HTTP.
It'll have to be maybe.
I think it's maybe it's
Yes.
that's so weird.
I just looked it up last night. Okay,
It's not searchable.
We can put the link in the follow-up email.
yeah, we'll do the link and I'll get the right link. It's because I'm just on a portable computer.
thank you.
Yeah, so I'll make sure Tamara sends that out as well, absolutely. And we'll get that. Leanne's got it too, I had to look it up, but yeah, it's real interesting. And like I say, do both ways, because that will help when you're dealing with your clients and customers. It'll really help, really unique, and they'll be able, oh, that person's this. So we determine, so we actually have anybody that wants to work with us, complete that. And we have determined that if they're an action personality, we actually won't work with them, because action people, as you've seen, I talk a lot, I explain a lot. Action people, if you don't catch their attention in the first sentence, they're done, they've checked out, and it's like, okay, so now we do that. And again, if they're high action, it's like, it's either, you know, we've got to figure out how to work with them, or we just don't work with them at all. So it's, yeah, it's really interesting. So like I say, do both of them. But no, we'll send that out. And thank you so much for pointing that out, Olga. And my apologies for that.
And for everybody here, we're gonna send a recap workshop email, and it'll have this presentation in it. Also the invite to the workshop coming forward on this year, June the 2nd, right? Just June
Yes,
2nd?
this year, June
This year,
2nd.
June 2nd.
This year, June 2nd.
And it'll also have the link to our YouTube channel that videotaped everybody that talked. You guys are quiet. They were quiet. Maybe they're writing notes. Right? Maybe they're writing notes.
Well, either I overwhelmed them, I answered all their questions, or they're like, oh no, I need to get to that workshop now.
Well, I mean, education is key, right?
It is.
Thank you so much, Tanya, from Cloud Business Services, and Leanne for coming in today. And I look forward to the next workshop. And thank you, everybody, for joining us at the Small Business Center in Belleville.
Great, and thank you, everybody, and thank you so much for arranging this, Luke and
Yes,
Sarah.
thanks very much.
Yes.
Again.
Have a nice day.
Everybody,
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Stay.
There we go.